Chairman and members of the committee, and especially Delegate Lewis Young for introducing this bill. I think you all got my hand out, so I'll try and make it brief. But to ad lib, I think I coined a phrase, we don't have to forget our history, but we don't have to be anchored to it either. So I'm here because I believe it is very important bill that you're considering. I think that a revised Maryland, My Maryland could be one of the most remembered legacies of the 2016 session. But while I support the changing of our song lyrics, I do not support the changes as outlined in this bill for the following reason. The biggest problem with the song in this bill is that it seems a little bit lopsided, historically speaking. The third stanza of Randall's poem refers only to Maryland heroes Charles Carroll of Carrollton and John Edgar Howard. While both of these men are worthy of being in our state song, the fact is that they both owned enslaved African Americans. If we want a more inclusive state song, then we should also include in the lyrics a reference to Harriet Tubman. The Maryland State Archives report lists Harriet Tubman as someone who could be mentioned in our state song. Harriet Tubman's story is Maryland history. And as an ad-lib aside, she's also a woman, so that if you included like Carroll and Tubman, you'd have man and women in the man and woman in the song. And also, to speak to Delegate Oak's point from the last panel, why should we only discuss Harriet Tubman in February? Put her in the song and teach Maryland, all Maryland history all the time, anytime the song sang. Another issue with the song in this bill is the content of the two stanzas. We're told how the third stanza of the Randall poem is the least offensive and taken out of context. It's kind of nice because it mentions heroes. But in fact, what the third stanza does, separate or with the rest of the poem, is that it uses the bravery of Carroll and Howard to goad Maryland into leaving the Union. And that's disgraceful. And that's what basically our song is now. That's all they sing at the Preakness. And the problem with the White stanza, and I'll add his whole poem, is that it contains nothing unique to Maryland. It could be about any state. White's poem, except for the mention of the Chesapeake Bay and the refrain, Maryland, My Maryland, you could be singing about Rhode Island or Massachusetts. And since the Randall stanza is the only one that most people sing, if it remains intact, it will probably remain the only stanza that most people will continue singing. So in reality, you wouldn't have changed our state song at all. The last issue I have with the song in this bill is that the Randall poem and the White poem have different rhyming schemes. The song in this bill will not sing smoothly. As an aside, I'm an amateur songwriter. One of the first lessons is when you create a rhyming scheme in a song, you don't change it up or you'll lose your listeners. The Randall poem rhymes each line. The White poem lines the first two lines and then the last three. So it's going to sing, if you sing both, it's going to sound like lopsided. There is a way we can rewrite our state song that is in keeping with the suggestions made in the Maryland State Archives report. The report suggested that the state song should be one or at the most two stanzas long. I have an example of how Maryland, My Maryland could be one stanza long by combining the Randall and White stanzas into one new stanza while adding a line about Harriet Tubman. And I also wrote a second stanza I think makes the song really uniquely Maryland, but I'm sticking to this one stanza. If this bill as written is signed by the governor, the mistakes I have outlined could be part of our state symbols for a very long time. They've already tried 8 times to correct this. If you're lucky enough to get this past the governor, the Harriet Tubman issue, the different stanzas, rhyming schemes, all that's going to be a part of this song for who knows how long. I believe if you amend this bill to include my suggestions, Maryland, My Maryland could become a song that people will actually want to sing instead of it being the embarrassing, treasonous ode that is mostly kept hidden in a dark corner of our state archives. This may be the best chance we have at making our state song something that all Marylanders can be proud to sing. And if you want me to recite or sing my one stanza, I'm happy to do it.
Actually, I'd really like to hear it.
One or two?
Let's do both, yeah.
Okay, great. So the first one's a mixture of White's poem, Randall's poem, so Mike Miller will be happy. Includes Harriet Tubman. And the last stanza is in mine, and it includes a reference to our state symbol, a couple state slogans. Sail on, thou ship of state. And join in if you want. Maryland, my Maryland, may we thy children make thee great. Maryland, my Maryland, remember Carroll's sacred trust. Remember Tubman, brave and just. Thy beaming sword shall never rust. Maryland, my Maryland. See, even both sides are singing along. With gentle words, strong deeds are done. There's a slogan. Maryland, my Maryland. The old line holds and stands as one. Maryland, my Maryland. Into the future we will stride, with rich traditions as our guide. Oh no, this free state is our pride. Maryland, my Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for this panel? Let's begin with Delegate Young, and then we'll turn to Delegate Hill.
I'm just curious, since we totally analyzed every verse that's been submitted, what's the reference to the old line mean? The old line holds and stands as one.
The old line is one of our state slogans. It's from George Washington, the Revolutionary War. It's, I don't know if it's a true story, but the legend is George Washington said, if not for Maryland's old line, we would have lost the, I guess the battle up north somewhere.
Okay.
It's a state slogan.
Okay.
No, it's not about the Mason-Dixon line. It's from the Revolutionary War time. General Washington said,
yeah,
if not from the Maryland old line, I would have lost this battle. I think, what's a big battle up north? Battle of Brooklyn. Battle of Brooklyn, there you go.
May I offer the delegate a write-up on her question, please, about the old line? I just happen to have a copy here.
okay.
And the Free State's another slogan. And the first line...
Excuse me, you're going to have to, please, you haven't been caught up yet. Okay?
With gentle words, strong deeds are done is a rewording of our state motto there.
Very good. Okay. Delegate Young, do you have a follow-up question?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Let's turn to Delegate Hill, please.
I will. I've been advised to sing my question, but I will. I'll pass on that. I do want to say that I admire what you've done here, and I don't think it strays from the recommendations of the committee. And what and as much as we'd like to think that once we do this, that'll be it for all times, history is fluid, so I suspect in another 77 or so years, regardless of what we do here, we'll be revisiting this. But what I like is that you have not thrown out the history of the song. You incorporate the beginnings of our state, as well as some of the challenges that our state has faced, and that there is a forward-looking component to it as well. I like what I consider the reference to the legislature, which I'm sure is what you meant by with gentle words, strong deeds are done. I'm sure that was a direct reference. So I just wanted to say that rather than a comment or question, a comment that I really like, both the looking backwards and looking forward that you've incorporated here, and some unique characteristics about Maryland that are unlikely to change with time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Thank you very much for your time and your testimony here today. We do
Thanks, sir.
appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Okay, let's bring up